All right, y'all. It is test time. It is officially test time. I like doing this every now and then, switch it up, give you guys some, just something new and something that I really enjoy doing. I like revisiting these tests every now and then to see if my own ideology has changed or evolved or whatever. And this is actually, if I remember correctly, I think this is the most thorough political test that I've ever done. I usually do, I forget the name of the other one that I do. I think the other one's just called the Political Compass Test. I've done that one a bunch, and I had to have done it like at least 2 or 3 times for you guys. This one, I think, is more detailed and more nuanced and maybe even more accurate, so I wanted to do this one for you. And, of course, I'll leave this in the video description box below if you want to do this 8 values test as well. So the way they break it up here, you can see there's economic, diplomatic, civil, societal, markets, world, authority, progress, and they give you, they scored for you and tell you where you fall with the breakdown. All right, so let's get started. Click here to start. You will be presented with a series of statements. For each one, click the button with your opinion on it. Got it. Oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. I think oppression by both is very serious, and I think they're both really big problems. But yeah, I generally think corporations control the government. It's not the government that controls corporations. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. Yeah, strongly agree with that. The freer the markets, the freer the people. Disagree with that. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. Strongly disagree with that. Publicly funded research is more beneficial to the people than leaving it to the market. Yeah, publicly funded research. I mean, the way we do it now, we have publicly funded research. The way it works with, like, pharmaceutical companies, with a lot of pharmaceutical companies, it'll be universities with government money that do the research, come up with the medicine, and then the pharmaceutical companies get the rights to it, and then price gouge you and charge you a ridiculous amount of money for the medicine that was just created with your tax dollars. So, I mean, yeah, publicly funded is absolutely necessary. So let me read this one more time. Publicly funded research is more beneficial to the people than leaving it to the market. Definitely agree with that. Tariffs on international trade are important to encourage local production. I know that this is one of those things that you're not allowed to say these days. Like, there seems to be a consensus on the so-called free trade side of the argument, and this is like a default setting of the neoliberal world order. But in my opinion, if you do tariffs in an intelligent way, then yes, they're a tool, like any other economic tool, and it can help, lead to more manufacturing and factories here at home. So tariffs on international trade are important to encourage local production. I actually do agree with that. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. Sorry for the hardcore Marxists and communists who watch this show. I love you guys, and I know that for whatever reason you love me. That's very kind of you to be so sweet to a dirty social democrat like myself. Or at least I think I'm, relatively social democratic, but who knows? Maybe this test will unmask that and show that I'm something else. But anyway, I don't agree with this. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. Yeah, I don't agree with that. It would be best if social programs were abolished in favor of private charity. Strongly disagree with that. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. Strongly agree with that. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. No, not really. I mean, I'm not against all inheritance. Like, you could take in some money, but it should be taxed like crazy. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. Yeah, I kind of disagree with that. Like, it's somewhat legitimate, but it should be taxed like crazy. Like, if you're a billionaire and you die and your kid is just an asshole, you're just going to give the kid like $5 billion. There's something that seems incredibly wrong with that. That's just not, that's unjust. I think that's sort of crazy. Is it okay if he inherits, a certain number of millions of dollars off that? Yeah, sure. That's fine. But billions? That strikes me as ridiculous. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. I kind of disagree with that. Basic utilities like roads and electricity should be publicly owned. Strongly agree with that. Government intervention is a threat to the economy. I mean, I disagree. There are instances where government intervention can be a threat to the economy, but as a general rule, no. As like a matter of principle, no. Government intervention is not a threat to the economy. Lack of government intervention in the economy is a bigger threat. Those with a greater ability to pay should receive better health care. Strongly disagree. Everybody should get the same high-quality health care. Quality education is a right for all people. Strongly agree with that. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. See, this is, again, a slight difference I have with communists and Marxists and socialists, is that I don't think that fully democratizing the workplace is necessary. Do I think that we should make the workplace more of a democracy? Yes. Do I want to incentivize worker-owned co-ops? Yes, I do. But would I ban or abolish the traditional capitalist hierarchy where you have, like, you could have a boss and you have people working underneath the boss and you have workers and you have management? No, I wouldn't ban the traditional capitalist hierarchy because in some instances that actually makes sense. Not all hierarchy is illegitimate or wrong by definition. There are some forms of hierarchy that are totally legitimate. So, and that's one of them. Like, I would love to see more worker-owned co-ops. I would love to see more democracy in the workplace. But do I think that every single company should be fully democratized and every single company should be a worker-owned co-op? No, I don't believe that. And that is one of the things that separates me from some of the hardcore either Marxists or socialists. So let me read this one more time. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. In some instances, yes. In some instances, no. So I'm just going to put neutral. The United Nations should be abolished. No, I disagree with that. Should be reformed, not abolished. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes military action is necessary to protect the country. Like, if we're talking about, like, World War II, but the overwhelming majority of our wars, certainly in modern American history, are not to protect the country. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. I do kind of disagree with that. Most of the wars are not for that. I support regional unions, such as the European Union. I mean, I guess I do, but I think it is probably pretty exploitative as well, and the way it's set up is not exactly good for all of the countries involved. I'm just going to go neutral on that. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. I actually do agree with that. I don't believe in eliminating all borders. I don't think national sovereignty is, bad in and of itself. It can be bad when it crosses the line into some ugly forms of patriotism and nationalism, but just the idea of a nation state, I'm not against. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. I do kind of agree with that. A united world government would be beneficial to mankind. One world government, I don't think so. I don't think that's even possible. And I wouldn't trust the people who are supposed to be at the top of that system. They would be billionaires. They would be oligarchs. It would not be pretty. So a united world government would be beneficial to mankind. I disagree. It is more important to retain peaceful relations than to further our strength. Yeah, you always want to maintain peaceful relations. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. Yeah, I disagree with that. That's why we have international law. We should follow law and order on the world stage. Military spending is a waste of money. Yeah, generally speaking, the way we do it now, it's a waste of money. We spend way too much money on military, not nearly enough on infrastructure and education and healthcare. But is all military spending bad? No. Like, am I in favor of having a military? Yes. Military spending is a waste of money. I just got to go neutral because that phrasing is too broad. International aid is a waste of money. No, I mean, the debate is really what percentage of the budget should go to international aid, I guess, right? I must admit, though, I am of the opinion that while our country's falling apart, we should handle that first before we try to help other people and help other countries. I don't know if that's, viewed as an out-of-bounds opinion these days or something that's too nationalistic, but yeah, I've always felt that with our tax money, we should take care of ourselves and our home first before we do anything with other people or do anything with other countries. So I wouldn't eliminate all international aid, but I would certainly try to take care of Americans before I try to take care of anybody else around the world. And that should specifically be the case because we're electing our representatives here. They're supposed to represent us. So they should represent us above and beyond anybody else or anything else. So let me read this one more time. International aid is a waste of money. I gotta go neutral, I guess. Because I'm not against all of it, but I'm not too hot on it when our country's falling apart. My nation is great. I'm going to go neutral on that because I love my country and I want to improve my country, right? But let's stop kidding. Like, we're not falling apart and waging too many wars and, like, our government isn't massively corrupt and, like, everything is in a colossal mess, okay? So I'm just going to go neutral on that. Research should be conducted on an international scale. I guess I'm just going to go neutral on that because, yeah, you should do it internationally, but you could also do it nationally. I don't see a problem with either one. Government should be accountable to the international community. Yeah, I mean, you have to be. I mean, international law is important, right? Like, it should exist, and we should abide by it, so I'm going to go agree. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. That's tough. If it's an authoritarian government and they're being violent against you, then you being violent back is sort of like self-defense, right? And I believe in the right to self-defense. But as a general rule, I think that when you're so outgunned and you're so outmanned and there's such a power imbalance, a nonviolent approach is strategically better and will work more in the long run. So let me read this one more time. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. I'm just going to go neutral. My religious values should be spread as much as possible. Strongly disagree. Our nation's values should be spread as much as possible. Disagree. That's code word for let's do more military interventions. It is very important to maintain law and order. Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of law and order, but what do they mean by this? There's a lot. That's a very loaded term. Does law and order mean, like, let the cops crack skulls in the streets of nonviolent people? Because then I'm not in favor of it. It is very important to maintain law and order. I'm just going to go neutral. The general populace makes poor decisions. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Like, I think the general population is actually right when you poll them issue for issue. But I also think that in general, we're, kind of probably unhealthy, obese, 50% of marriages end in divorce. So, like, everybody's private life and personal life is a mess for a variety of reasons. So, I don't know. The general populace makes poor decisions. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I'll just go neutral again. Physician-assisted suicide should be legal. Strongly agree. Oh, shit. I almost clicked the wrong thing. Strongly agree. Yeah. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. No, you never. The whole point of civil liberties and rights is that they're off the table. That's the whole point of them. If you could willy-nilly take them off the table, they're not rights and they're not civil liberties. Like, that's the whole point. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. That's a strongly disagree. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. Disagree. They mean, like, illegal spying. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. Disagree with that. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. What does that even mean? Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. So if my country does illegal and offensive wars and massacres civilians, I'm supposed to side with it no matter what? That makes no sense. No. If you love your country, you try to fix that situation. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. Disagree. All authority should be questioned. I don't think authority is always wrong, but yeah, you should always question it, just to be sure, right? A hierarchical state is best. I'm going to disagree with that, even though not all hierarchy is by definition bad, but a lot of it is, and probably most of it is, that we have set up at the moment. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even if it is wrong. Yes, for all issues except constitutional issues. On constitutional issues, they're supposed to be off the table, right? And so they're not open to the democratic will of the majority. You could democratically vote to take away rights for black people, but you shouldn't take away rights for black people. Those should be off the table and protected. That's the whole point of having a constitution and having rights. So I believe in direct democracy, and I believe in democracy more broadly, but I believe in a democratic system with a constitution that takes certain things off the table. So let me read this one more time. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even if it is wrong. Disagree. The stronger the leadership, the better. I don't know what that means, but that sort of sounds like some authoritarian bullshit where the government gets to override and do whatever the hell they want. So I'm going to go disagree. Democracy is more than a decision-making process. I don't really know what that means. Democracy is more than a decision-making process. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to click neutral. Environmental regulations are essential. Strongly agree. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. Actually, it'll probably make things worse, but it has the potential to maybe make things better. Science definitely could make things better. Technology can make things better. Automation will probably make things worse in the short run. Maybe better in the long run, but we need a serious way to address the downsides of it. Because it could just wipe out so many jobs. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. I mean, I guess I'm agnostic on that, right? Because in some ways it could get better, in some ways it could get worse. So I don't know, neutral. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. No, I disagree with that. I mean, you could raise them like that if you want, but as a general rule, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. Traditions are of no value on their own. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. Tradition isn't inherently good, but it's possible to craft some traditions that are positive and that are good. But yeah, most of them are probably pretty shitty. So traditions are of no value on their own. Yeah, I got to agree with that. Religion should play a role in the government. Strongly disagree with that. Churches should be taxed the same way other institutions are taxed. I agree with that. Climate change is currently one of the greatest threats to our way of life. Yeah, I think that's objectively true. It is important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. I agree with that as well. Society was better many years ago than it is now. No, I disagree with that. It is important that we maintain the traditions of our past. Not necessarily. Some traditions can be terrible. It is important that we think in the long term beyond our lifespans. Yeah, you have to. If you give a shit about your children and your grandchildren, reason is more important than maintaining our culture. Yeah, that's probably true. If you want to use your brain instead of just blindly following what people have done for no reason in the past, drug use should be legalized or decriminalized. Yeah, baby, strongly agree. Same-sex marriage should be legal. Strongly agree. No cultures are superior to others. I mean, usually the cultures that claim that they're superior are not. Like, you know, Western cultures love to say, like, oh my God, we're the enlightened culture, and then they go on to wage illegal and offensive wars against countries that didn't attack us and implement torture and think nothing of it, right? But that doesn't mean that in other ways, like, not everything is equal all the time, right? So, like, there are instances of cultures doing certain things better and certain things worse. But usually the people who claim cultural superiority don't actually have it. You know what I mean? So it's a very weird. No cultures are superior to others. I'm just going to go neutral because, yeah, you could be objectively superior in certain metrics, right? Like, you know, the Scandinavian healthcare systems are objectively better than ours. Is everything always equal all the time? No. But it's also the case that usually the cultures who are claiming supremacy don't actually have it. And also the idea of cultural supremacy has been used to some pretty ugly ends throughout history. So you never want to define somebody else as the other and then, like, use that to rationalize all sorts of terrible actions against them. I'll just go neutral. Sex outside of marriage is immoral. Disagree. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate into our culture. I mean, I actually kind of agree that assimilation matters. I think that, you know, we should have all different sorts of people, and I really do think that diversity is a colossal strength of a nation, to give all different sorts of perspectives and all different kinds of people a voice and a role. I think that's really important. But I also do believe in the melting pot theory. So I don't think we should have, like, little segregated pockets of different kinds of people. I think we should all intermingle and be together in the melting pot. So I believe in that kind of multiculturalism, not like the segregated pockets kind of multiculturalism, if that makes sense. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate. Yeah, everybody should assimilate. Abortion should be prohibited in most or all cases. Disagree. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. Yeah, I mean, I think we should have a process in place for people to get guns. But that being said, I wouldn't ban all guns. I'll just go agree on that. I support single-payer universal health care. Yeah, baby, strongly agree. Prostitution should be illegal. Disagree. Strongly disagree. Maintaining family values is essential. I don't really know what that means, and usually family values is like code word for hating gay people and being against abortion and stuff like that, so I'm going to go disagree. To chase progress at all costs is dangerous. Sometimes it is, but oftentimes chasing progress is a very good thing. To chase progress at all costs. Yeah, that is kind of dangerous, right? I gotta agree with that. Genetic modification is a force for good, even on humans. Not necessarily. I'm gonna have to go ahead and disagree. We should open our borders to immigration. Open our borders? Like, totally open borders? No, I don't agree with that. But do I think we should have immigration and a process through which people get here? Sure, I do. But I'm not in favor of totally open borders. I guess I'll go neutral. Governments should be as concerned about foreigners as they are about their own citizens. No, you're elected to represent the people of the United States, not random people in other countries. All people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. Yeah, of course. It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. What? Disagree. Look at this. Okay, that's it? That was the whole test? Nice. 8 values. So on the economic axis, I'm 82.1% socialist, 17.9% markets. My diplomatic axis is peaceful. I'm 38.9% in favor of the nation state and 61.1% in favor of the world. So I'm like a mild nationalist, I guess you could call that. My civil axis, I'm a liberal, and that's 68.3% towards liberty and 31.7% towards authority. And on my societal axis, I'm progressive, 73% in favor of progress, 27% in favor of tradition. And my closest match is libertarian socialism. Look at that, baby. Look at that. Libertarian socialism. Ideological matching is a work in progress and is much less accurate than the values and axes. You can send these results by copying and pasting the URL at the top of the page or using the image below. Think your matched ideology was wrong? Want to help us calibrate the test? Send the results along with your political ideology to us at 8values@gmail.com or send us any comments, questions, or criticisms. So there we go. Is this the same results as it says up here? Yeah, it is. Interesting. So I'm economically socialist, diplomatically peaceful. I'm a civil libertarian, civil liberal, and I'm societally progressive. And when you put everything together, I am indeed a libertarian socialist. Isn't that interesting? I think that's interesting. I've often referred to myself as a social democrat or a libertarian leftist or like populist left because when I take the other test that I've taken for you guys a number of times, the political compass test, I come off like, a libertarian leftist, and I think it falls into the category of like social democracy. And the other reason I call myself a social democrat is because I look at the Scandinavian countries, and the Scandinavian countries are social democracies. And I'm also an imperialist. Ha 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 ha. Hilarious. I'm also an empiricist. That's what I meant to say. And empirically, I look around the world and I see that those countries function better in almost every relevant, measurable way. And so I just kind of want to copy what already works. And so that's why I describe myself as a social democrat, because I wish I could just press a button and give us Scandinavian-style social democracy overnight, and I'd be very happy with that. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to get more specific, and I do think this test is more specific than the other one, then technically I am a libertarian socialist. So there you go, man. I guess you learn something new every day. And again, if you guys want to go ahead and take this same test, I'm going to leave it for you in the video description box. So go ahead and take it. And post your stuff on social media or tweet it at me, or just, spread the word about where you fall and spread the test as much as possible, because I love things like this. I think this thing is pretty cool. I think this thing is interesting, and I'd love it, if more people took it. So there you go. Secular talk is now libertarian socialism talk. I can already sense that there are some people out there that are proud of me. Hassan Piker is watching this going, hell yeah, dude. And Vosh is watching this going, I knew you were a libertarian socialist. Anyway, all right. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.